Welcome to our last N-400 interview practice video. This is session 10. In this session, we're going to cover part 12, questions 45 through 50. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? Support means agree with. So do you agree with the Constitution and form of government? So remember all of the things we've learned about our Constitution. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We have 3 parts of our government that divide up the power so no one can be too powerful. We are a democracy where people can vote. So do you agree with the Constitution and the form of government, the type of government we have in the United States? So if the officer asks, do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? They mean, do you agree with the kind of government we have with freedom and voting? Next question is, do you understand the full oath of allegiance to the United States? The oath of allegiance is what you will take at your ceremony when you become a citizen. You have to make a legal promise. An oath is a legal promise of allegiance or loyalty to the United States. So the question here is, do you understand the full oath of allegiance? So we need to make sure you can answer yes, that you do understand what promise you are making when you say you promise loyalty to the United States. So the oath of allegiance says, I hereby declare on oath. That means I legally promise that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. That means that I give up loyalty to other countries. The next part of the oath says that I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That means that I agree with the Constitution and the kind of government in the U.S., that I will obey the laws, I will follow the laws, I will do what the laws say, and lastly, I will be loyal to the Constitution. I believe in and support and love the Constitution. The next part of the oath uses the word arms. Arms can mean the part of your body, but arms also means weapons. So part of the oath will ask if you are willing to bear arms, which means carry weapons or serve in the U.S. military. So the next part of the oath says that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law. That means that if the government says I have to join the military and fight, I will. This would be if there was a draft. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? Bear arms in this sentence means fight in a war. Join the military and fight in a war. If the law said you had to do that. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? Means if the government says you have to join the military and fight, will you do that? The next part of the oath of allegiance says that I will perform non-combatant services in the armed forces of the United States if required by law. That means that if the government says I have to help the military in other ways that are not fighting, I will. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces? Non-combatant services means help in other ways that are not fighting, like a medic or an interpreter. So when the officer says, if the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces? They mean if the government says you have to join the military and help in ways that are not fighting, will you? The next part of the oath is a promise that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by law. That means that if the government says I have to help the country during an emergency, not in the military, I will. Civilian direction means not the military. So for example, if there is an emergency like a hurricane or a flood, then the government, not the military, but the government might ask people to come and help protect a town or a state. During World War II, people were asked to grow their own food so that more of the food, the grocery store food, would be sent to the soldiers, and the government asked people to try to grow their own food. When the officer asks, if the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? They mean, if the government says you have to help the country during an emergency, not in the military, will you? The next part of the oath of allegiance says, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. That means that I really love the United States and I really want to be a citizen. No one is making me do this. I am doing it because I want to. So the oath has 5 parts. That you are loyal to the United States, not any other country. That you support the Constitution and our form of government. That if the law said you had to join the military and fight, you would. If the law said you had to join the military in a non-fighting job, like medic or interpreter, you would. If the government said you needed to help in an emergency, not in the military, but just help the government in an emergency, you would. Those are the 5 parts of the oath of allegiance. So when they ask, do you understand the full oath of allegiance to the United States, they want to make sure you know you are agreeing to all 5 of these things. Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States? They want to know, do you agree that after you pass your citizenship interview, you will take the oath, you will say the oath, you will promise to be loyal to the United States? Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States? Means, will you promise to be loyal to the United States? Okay, let's review. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? Does that go with picture 1 or picture 2? Good. You support the Constitution and the form of government, all of the things about how our government works. Are you willing to take the oath of allegiance? Does that go with picture 1 or picture 2? Good. Picture 1. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces? Picture 1, picture 2, or picture 3? Good. Picture 3. Non-combatant means you're in the military, you're helping the military, but you are not fighting. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? Picture 1. Good. Civilian direction means working for the government, but not for the military. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? Good. Picture 2. If the officer asks a question and you just don't understand, don't worry. You could say, "Sorry, I don't remember what the word means." For example, if the officer said, "If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States?" and you were nervous and you forgot what that meant, you could say, "Sorry, I don't remember what bear arms means." That is the end of our N-400 video series. We also have 10 videos about the civics questions, the 100 government and history questions, and we have videos to help you work on reading and writing on our YouTube channel, Citizenship Playlist. You can also find more information and resources on our website at literacyforall.org/citizenship.